All right, everybody, we are live on YouTube with Coach Brad Gunter of Valley Christian Academy. How you doing tonight, Coach?
Good. How are you doing?
I am doing well. And how is it up there with COVID? Is it about the same as it is down here in SoCal?
I sit on the border of Placer County, so you got the Placer County people fighting a little bit of restrictions, and then you got the Sac County people that are a little tight. And our school and where I live sits on the border, so it depends where the left leg and the right leg are.
Okay. So you run the system. How long you been the basketball coach up there?
So I came back to VCA in, what was it, 97, after I got done with college, and I was a basketball coach. So I've coached basketball for 19 years, but I'm headed into my 25th year at VCA. But there was, when my kids, I've got 3 kids, a son and twin daughters, when they were born, I needed to take a few years off at the suggestion, because I coach both basketball and baseball here. My wife said one had to go. And then even though basketball is my favorite sport, baseball obviously is what I knew the most. And so I brought in a buddy to coach for 5 years. So I've been coaching here for 19 years in basketball.
19 years. So obviously you haven't been running the system for the 19 years you've been the basketball coach, correct?
No, but I'm pretty crazy and we were about as run and gun as you could. I was a big UNLV fan growing up in college, and a Patino fan, and obviously everybody that gets up and goes. Couldn't stand Duke at the time. I don't like that half court, lock up man to man is just boring to me. So in my early years, it was run and gun, sideline, fast breaks, and just go.
Okay, so not a Duke fan.
Nope. Sorry, great coach, great program, not a Duke fan. It goes too slow. They've picked it up, obviously, in the last few years, but in the early years, too slow.
Well, yeah, talent kind of helps with that, right?
So, yes, very much so.
So, so when did you start running the system, Coach?
I'm headed into my 10th year of running it. So, 2010, somewhere around there. Sorry, I don't know that off the top of my head.
It's okay.
Yeah, I think it's about 2010 or 2011. Oh, and I tell you, it was 2011. And the reason I know that is because my guy that is in the major leagues, one of my baseball guys that also played basketball with me, we did not run it his senior year, and his senior year was 2010. So it was 2011 was my first year, full-blown system.
Okay. So what made you switch to the system, Coach?
This is sort of tough. I'm in a unique situation at Valley Christian. I'm the vice principal and the athletic director. Hold a lot of hats here. My dad's the administrator, the main administrator. So pretty much here I can do what I want, which going into this, I have a lot of backing, which a lot of other coaches wanting to do this do not. I had always been a run and gun coach, but our biggest thing at VCA and myself personally has always been teaching character through athletics. Now, I'm as competitive, Coach Gary Smith will tell you, I'm as competitive as the next coach. I want to win, but I really wanted my guys to do it the right way. And then I was more concerned how they were at 35 years old. So with that being said, we had great success being a run and gun team, not system. I had seasons where we only lost 4 and 5 games, and we were making it to the NorCal playoffs, the section semifinals for Division 5. I had squads that at our level were pretty good, with point guards at 6'3", big man at 6'8", 6'9", and we were running with it. But the problem I had is, even though I was an up and down run and gun coach, anytime we got to the playoffs, my rotation of 10, 11 guys, when we got to playoffs, went down to 5 or 7. And every year it just ate at me that these guys worked so hard and did not get to play. And at some point in my career, I said enough was enough. I'm going to pull the trigger on something I've been following along for a long time. and I'm going to go all in. So no matter what the situation is, my guys, because all my guys play hard for me. I am old school. When I tell you to jump, I expect you to jump and not talk back. And my guys know that here. So my guys work extremely hard. And so I honestly felt they needed a chance. And that's one of the major reasons I switched. Now, I was always a fan, but it's the reason I jumped in and I switched, is I wanted my guys to have the opportunity to play. Sorry, I can't hear you.
It's okay. Sounds pretty normal from what I've been studying and hearing from a lot of the coaches. It's not always about winning and losing. It's about participation. A lot of it's participation.
It is.
And
I'm not an every guy gets a trophy guy. My guys work extremely hard, and me personally, I want to reward them for that.
So you mentioned Coach Smith, Gary Smith, who I've gotten to know over the last few months quite a bit. How has he impacted you and helped with your program? I mean, you said he's at your practices or at games, and
he's an absolute godsend. So obviously, I'm at a Christian school, so saying a godsend for me is a real big impact statement. Coach Gary Smith has not only been a major influence when it comes to basketball, making me become a better coach, not just a system coach, but a better coach. But he has honestly turned into a great friend. And I think I value the friendship aspect of it more than I value anything else. But when I have had tough seasons since the system or tough games, a lot of times Coach Smith has actually been in the stands. He takes notes. He goes over it after the game. We go after it. Sometimes he knows. He'll email me later because I'm so devastated. This last year in particular, we got hit with a ton of injuries. We had some guys that I thought were going to play, some of my football guys that decided not to because they're going to be quarterback at Alabama. You know how that saying goes. And don't forget, I'm the athletic director that helps get all of our kids out. But it was a really rough year, but my guys played hard. And Coach Smith, more than anybody else, helped me out. And you're doing the right thing, what you're doing. And at one point this year, I'm sitting here, year 9, 10 of this going, man, am I that bad of a coach? And he's like, no, I told you early, you don't run this to win. And, because him and I had discussed that, you got to have talent to win it in each system you're running. But that guy, as far as system is, he's the ultimate knowledge. As far as a person, he's even better. And, I just absolutely love the guy and couldn't have thought of doing this without him.
Yeah, I've gotten to know him since April really well. I remember talking to him in 2011 when I wanted to go system and go faster. Mm-hmm. And he actually did a private Zoom with my coaching staff and done some stuff for me. He's on my speed dial. He's on my email. Anything that he's going to hold me accountable. He's already waiting for my first box score. So,
and that's the greatness of honestly, the system community, but also the greatness of Coach Smith. It's amazing. That guy walks in one practice and he comes back to the second practice and he already knows every one of my guys' names.
Amazing.
Ask them about how they're doing, and then their practices, I hand over to him. I'm like, Coach, we need to work on up deny, and our push steps are absolutely terrible. And this is the problem that you saw in last game. And he goes, well, what do you want me to do? And I said, you're the Bible genius here. You do whatever you want to do. I'll just sit back. And so I love that guy.
My favorite story about him is I've done, I think it's over 40 something Zoom clinics or whatever I've done with, or different things that I've had. And I invite him to everything. Mm-hmm. And if he cannot make it, he sends me an email apologizing.
Yeah, that's Coach Smith in a nutshell. And I'm a very, very fortunate guy that I'm able to text Coach Smith anytime I want. And like I said, Coach Smith has VCA gear, and every time he walks in our gym, he's got his gear on. And the times that, because we have Sac State women's with Bunky that run the system. And so once a year, I take my entire boys basketball team and then some of our girls, even though they don't run the system. And we go in the stands with Coach Smith, and Coach Smith will have his VCA gear on, just because he is absolutely part of our family. And to see a guy that does not have to be part of this little small, tiny school that is invested because he loves the kids, man, you can't ask for a better mentor or role model anywhere in the world.
We joked before we came on, man, I was going to make a comment about how somebody actually had more facial hair on one of my podcasts than me. But as everybody's growing it during COVID, you lost it, but it didn't have anything to COVID. Do you want to tell people about the loss of your beard?
Yeah, so the baseball side of me were pretty superstitious, and 8 years ago, I had a goatee, and we lost to a pretty big, powerful local school, which is Yuba City High School. Which, if you Google Yuba City High School and their baseball, you'll see guys like Mac Stassi and blah blah blah. Well, the year we played them, our little school, I thought we should beat them, and we went out and got boat raced, and so needed to change something up. So next day I didn't shave. We're in a tournament, and we ended up winning 19 straight to finish the season. We ended up top 20 in all of Sacramento of all divisions. And we got a lot of notoriety for my guys in the school. And so it was about the same time as Duck Dynasty came out. So it was like a gimmick. And so that thing stayed on for 8 years, even though I have a very beautiful wife that hated it. She understood. Well, last year, our baseball team lost in the section finals, and it was the first time in all my years of coaching, 19 years of basketball, 24 years of baseball, that my guys honestly felt they let me down. And that's not why I coach. And so that was on a Memorial Day, showed up on a Tuesday with the shave, didn't even tell my wife. And all the kids could talk about was Coach shaved. The loss was gone. And so the beard served its purpose of getting them notoriety, but I also am now 46, going to be 47, and need to try to keep my hot ex-wife or my ex-model wife. I need to try to keep her, and so she loves the cleaner look, and so I'm not dumb. I'm keeping the long beard off, but yeah, it was tough cutting it off.
Well, I've had then I did goatee, and then I went to the beard. My daughter won't let me shave my face because she tells me I have baby butt chin. I have like I got the baby butt chin as well. That's why I've always had a goatee. Hate the baby butt chin. So I'm going to read the first 3 sentences of the Bible and let me know if it resonates with you, because every time I read it makes me laugh. I wonder how many people read those 3 sentences and then just close the book. But if you're interested in coaching the system, you're probably desperate or crazy or both. What did you think when you read those first 3 words to the introduction of this book? If, ladies and gentlemen, if you have not gotten this book,
you got to get it.
This is the book.
You got to get it.
It's the Bible. On Amazon. 90% of the questions that I get by doing these probably is in here. He could probably, Coach Gunter, who's ran it, probably tell you everything that they've said in this book happens.
Ins and outs. Mine's marked up. Coach Smith sort of teased me because I refer to it as the System Bible, and he had never heard that before. At least he said it, making me feel good. And I'm like, yeah, it's the Bible. And as I told you before, I'm a little embarrassed. When I started the system, I did not know who Coach Gary Smith was. I didn't. I had always followed Grinnell and Coach Arsenault and watched all the videos. And so when I put this into play in 2011, I did not know there was a Bible of the system. I was doing it by watching film and drawing the plays, like fast forward, go back, and drawing the plays of the Grinnell overload and, the headhunter screen and the staggered screen. And I would go back over it, and it's like, okay, all the videos that I purchased about the system, some of the stuff's not said in there. And so I would catch the guys doing the drill, and so I would go back and forth. So when I first started this, I had reached out to Coach Arsenault, and he gave me some great advice. And then I happened to be looking on the internet, and all of a sudden that book was there. And I come to find out Coach Smith was helping at a local D1 high school, like right down the road. And I'm going, oh my goodness, I'd been studying this for a year and I didn't know there was a Bible, and I didn't know there was a like basketball God that actually exists, and he's down the street. And so I reached out to the Davis High School, their coach there. He put me in contact with Coach Smith. I hurried up and ordered the System Bible, and hurried up. And as you know, that thing's a manual. That's not an easy read. It's not for the lighthearted. That's a dig in. And I covered that thing. Coach Smith was supposed to come out in 3 weeks to our first practice. And I covered that thing in 3 weeks. Highlights, questions I had for him, eliminated stuff I wasn't going to use anymore, only focusing, because a lot of Coach Smith stuff comes from a defensive pressure standpoint.
He's known as the defensive guru.
100%. And so that was a lot of stuff that I wanted to pick his brain, because I did want to implement some more stuff instead of just turning butts to the stands, as far as press was considered. And so, man, you got to get that book. But if you're not, I had one of my assistants purchase the book, and they brought it to practice. And I said, what are you doing with that? It's like, oh, I'm going to read it when we're on vacation. And I'm like, that's not one of those. Like, that's not one of those reads. You've got to sink your teeth, because that thing covers everything, and it covers it in depth.
Yep.
I mean, it's just, if you're thinking about this, first of all, you're dumb if you're thinking about going to the system. But if
Thanks,
you
Coach.
are,
Thanks. Making me feel real good right now.
I apologize. You are. But if you do, you've got to have the book. And then obviously there's a bunch of great guys like Coach Smith and Coach A. The list goes on and on and on. Great guys that will assist you.
I hope my admin isn't listening right now.
Yeah.
No,
I will tell you, though, it'll be the funnest games on that campus ever, which will increase attendance.
So you're going to be going into year 11, year 12, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
How has it evolved for you? Has it changed much, or are you still staying true to you're a Grinnell to the T, 5 in, 5 out, send the guy through, double staggered guy, right?
100%. We had to, when I first started it, we had a couple 6'8", 6'9" guys. So off that double staggered, we had a post entry, which, I got Coach Smith to approve. He came into practice and I said, hey, I had to put this in. I know we're shooting 50% three, and we're going to, but 6'8" at this Division 6 level is pretty nice. It's not a college level 6'8", but it's still, you can't teach height. And so
would Coach A have had a heart attack?
I think he would have been proud, because Coach Smith was. Coach Smith was proud. And all it was is, once we sent it through, if we kicked out to the fade, we could quickly dump it down to a big. And we told our big, if we give it to you, we don't want you kicking it back out. So there was no reads. There was nothing. If we dump it down to you, we need you to go to the rack. And so what it did is it sent weak side help and came off of our guards, so they just weren't overloaded. And to be honest with you, even when we've gotten shorter, we've still kept that post feed before they clear to the other side to go on the backside for the double screens. We have a little quick dump down, because if it's one-on-one, we're gonna go with it. But we've pretty much stayed, as Coach Smith will tell you, we're full blown. I had one year that we were just killed. We're a small school. We were just killed by injuries coming out of football season. And I had 11 guys that were going to be healthy for the majority of the year before they were cleared to play. And then on top of that, we got hit with sickness. So early in the season, we only had like 8. And obviously you can't run the system at 8. And so I'm like, Coach Smith asked me, hey, what are you going to do? And I said, well, as soon as we get to 10, I'd love to run the system. And I know that's not the numbers, but we'll go 5 in, 5 out and just go with it, because my guys will work hard. And so the beginning of the year, my guys played hard, but it was brutal. And in one tournament, we had 10 guys. I go, okay, guys, you already have the make and the miss and the zone. And, we've been doing different sub patterns, but I'm telling you right now, I'm bringing 5 new guys in every 35 seconds, and just go out and give me what you had. And we took on a much bigger public school and scared the heck out of them, because we started getting threes and steals. And I think there was at one point we'd scored like 12 points in about 15 seconds. and my guys were pumped. And I said, even though we only have 10, maybe 11, because we eventually got back to 11 that year, we ran the system the rest of the year with 11. And I don't suggest anybody doing that, and no other good system coach would. But that was the only year. Every other year, we are full blown. We're coming at you. Every 35 seconds, a new 5 guys are coming in to attack you.
So, Coach, I know you're at a small school, so it makes things tough for you. But what do you think is the ideal number for a high school team?
Well, I ordered
roster size.
Yeah, I say at least 15. What we have is we have 16 jerseys that we have. And that's what I ordered because, obviously finances and everything else. But I had 16 because the goal is if one is hurt or out sick, I can have practice situation where we can go 5 on, 5 on, and 5 on. So have a white practice jersey, a maroon practice jersey, and a skins group. And we can do what I'm sure you guys know are bouts, to get the tempo up. And so really, for me, it's 16. And not I don't have all basketball guys here. I have guys that play baseball for me or play football or don't play anything. And I turn those guys into rebounders or defensive guys. But 15, 16 would be optimal number. I've had a couple of years where I've ran it with 14. That's when I have to do a lot more thinking with the lineup going into a game. But when I got 16, you pretty much know your top 10. And so you got an A and a B in crunch time. And then obviously real crunch time, you can cut it down based on the situation. You can have a 3-point squad, a defensive squad, a free throw shooting squad, all that kind of stuff. But when you go 15, 16 guys, it gives me some flexibility and ease in putting together groups that, even though a lot of times you'll make adjustment throughout the year, which guys are working well, those first instinct gut things that I do in December pretty much hold true in January and February and early March. And so those groups really get an opportunity through practices and games to work together. And then it just makes it much easier. Guys know where they stand. And that's probably the baseball stand, point where it's like, here's my leadoff hitter every day. Here's my 2 hitter every day. So those guys get comfortable with the person in front of them and their roles. So 15, 16 gives me that baseball mentality where they're comfortable where they're at.
Got it. Defensively, do you just do on press, or do you have a few of them, or how do you mix it up, or you just
so we mix it out. Pretty much every group, unless let's say we're going up deny. Okay, we're going up deny, and it's working. We usually start out every game with up deny because we want the tempo to get going. So we'll risk stuff on the back end, but we want the game to get going. We want the officials start to get in the flow. So we'll go up deny. If up deny is getting the tempo we're wanting and points are going on the board early and it's creating that chaos, we'll leave it on until they make an adjustment. But after that adjustment is made, and that usually comes after a timeout, then you're saying every group that comes out, every new 5 is coming out with a different press. Up deny, up inside out, off. We put in, with the blessing of Coach Smith, we put in what's called a safety press. Where it's basically a 2-2-1, and we're funneling the guys down the middle of the floor to the shot blocker of whatever, and then we are covering lags and passing lanes, and so you're stuck. You're stuck. You can't kick out. We're defending half court like it's our mom standing there. And so every once in a while, we'll put on a safety press. Their point guards, their guards think they have a free run down the middle, and all of a sudden they got no place to kick to. And they're up against our best shot blocker on the backside because he's faking and feigning, trying to bring him in on the, at the goal post. So usually once things get going, every rotation's coming in with a new press. And then you usually find which presses work good for which guys. Off press might work better for a certain group, or if you got foul trouble, because I am an old school guy. If I've had guys foul out in the first quarter, Like they didn't learn, so they didn't learn. That's their problem. They'll learn by next game. And so we're not going to make adjustments. You're going to have to figure out how to not foul and figure it out as we go along, which benefits me when we go to league. And so we go, you know, a new group comes in and here comes the off, here comes up deny, here comes up inside out. Every once in a while we run the go press. You know, that's another one in certain situations. And then of course, if we get to a outside, a sideline handle, I usually be in a matchup zone, a deny back into a matchup zone for that possession.
So if they break the press and you have to go half court defense, which isn't, if you're in a half court defense, you're probably not running the system well enough. Learned that from Bob Belf. He says, with all in doubt, then just get them to a 10-second violation. Just, he's like, if you're playing defense for longer than 12 seconds, you didn't do your job. So do you continue like the system purists and trap? And does it look, the way I look at it, studying teams, is it kind of represents like a 1-3-1-ish to me, or a 1-2-2 half court trap, is kind of because you're trapping, taking away the lag. For the people that are joining us, I was one of those guys that didn't know what a lag was until 4 or 5 months ago. When lag is
it's the most
lag
important
is deny
thing.
the reversal, pretty much deny of the reversal pass.
Yeah, it's the most important thing. That lag spot is the biggest thing I have to teach my guys, because then we're going to be playing defense for 20 seconds. You know, it's brutal.
Going to be my next question. Is that
yeah. So our goal is we want them shooting within 10 seconds, and so we are. 2 closest guys are trap, next guy's lag, and then 2 gap guys. That's us.
Is that the hardest thing to teach kids new to the system?
It is. But once they get it, it's the most, as I've talked to Coach Smith at length, using that format, it's the most unpredictable defense you can use to create chaos. Because a lot of times we actually put our slowest player, we put him in the up spot of the press, because if we're going to get beat, we'd rather get beat up there. So then you turn around and you've got our big of whatever size he might be. He's either coming back to trap from the backside because he's closest, he's chasing, or he's going to be the lag. And I've had coaches go, "What are you doing? Move him to the rim." And I'm like, no, we want them to go to the rim. If I'm going to get beat, I want to get beat going to the rim. And so for us, it's 2 closest. It doesn't matter who it is, at what point of the floor, just the 2 closest. You're trapping with solid formations on closeout, which is my biggest frustration as a coach. Coach Smith will tell you, formations of traps with active high hands. That might be the toughest thing, because dribble escapes burn me more than reverse passes, because our guys do a decent job at the lag just because it's entrenched. We don't run it in our JV program, but our JV guys watch us, and then every once in a while they'll come out to a practice on the day off to run one of the scout teams. Okay. So our guys really do a good job on the lag, but that dribble escape, because a lot of times they don't have basketball guys, those formations, that's the frustrating. And so it doesn't matter. We're 2 trap, 1 lag, 2 gap, you know, based on how they're trying to break us. They put a guy at the high post, you know, we'll change it up a little bit, determining how we're going to attack that. Sometimes we allow the catch, sometimes we deny it and try to get a skip pass, but we're pretty traditional. We're trapping you all the time. So
dribble escapes, pass escapes. Do you just like set it up in drill formats and kind of just drill those situations?
Drill them nonstop. Those are, and that's probably where we're not as Grinnell as, I mean, we're full-blown Grinnell. Come and watch us. We're full-blown Grinnell on offense, and for the most part on defense too. But we do spend some time, probably about twice a week. You know, the majority of the time we do spend on skill stuff, whether it be defensive footwork, ball handling, shooting. We do a lot of skill basketball work more than we do system work. But one of the things we do drill about twice a week is those exact things. Dribble escape, you know, skip passes, where are we going? And just emphasizing how important it is to have proper closeouts on a skip pass. You know, if they got a 3-point shooter, we're running them off the 3-point line because we can't trade 3 for 3.
Did you just say closeout?
Yeah.
Okay.
I did.
I don't know if that's a system term though.
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, close out when it comes to a trap.
Okay.
When it comes to a trap, not as far as letting them shoot. And that's why, that's where I say that is the difference. When I say close out, I'm referring to us breaking down to trap somebody. If a guy's shooting, no, we're going at their right shoulder and we're flying by him because we want him to go to the rim.
So I'm still deciding what offense I'm going to do. I'm a dribble drive guy. I've been a dribble drive guy for a while. So the Olivet version kind of just makes it easy, I think, for me to just say go there.
Yeah.
But something Coach A said, we were doing roundtables in July, and I got him to come on. And I asked him, what has evolved or changed in the last 20-something years of running the system? And he feels how people defend the three-point line because they weren't worried about it as much. So it's harder to get your three-point shots. So he believes to run his traditional Grinnell, which you run, you have to have really good point guards. Do you agree with him, or do you still think because they need to be able to make that read to the fade curl? Because people are not just giving the help or whatever and sinking in. They're playing more man up, making that kid finish at the rim, and they don't want to give up threes anymore. So
yeah, you've got to, it's point guard, but you got to figure at my school, we're left with what we've got, but you've got to have a point guard. That's one of the reasons we spend the most time on skill. Reads, ball handling. I mean, we do ball handling every single day. We do shooting every day because our number one option is point guard, don't give it up. Either launch it from half court or take it all the way to the rack. And then after those two things becomes the skipper, becomes the curl or the fade. I mean, really, that's it. And so it's like we teach point guards first, and then we go from there. And one of the things that we have found, and I've talked to Coach Smith a long time, especially at my level, we started seeing that 1-2-2 half court trap all the time. Because what they were trying to do is shut down our point guard because we were just letting him go. And so we had to come up with, all right, we've got to use the zone more, where we're just going to flash a guy, put it in the middle, and then, run guys what we call the four cones. So the two curls and the two fades, and teach that weak side guard to kick out. But no, you have to have good guard play in order to run the overload. But I've been fortunate enough, we've been able to teach at our level guards extremely well that they can handle the pressure and they can score. And you got to figure, I'm putting my best player as my point guard. However it is, he's my point guard. So you're the one option. We tell everybody in the gym, you stop him. And if my point guard's getting stopped one-on-one, we've got an issue to begin with. And so that's sort of the one thing we work on. We usually have 2 to 3 guys that we rotate at point guard that we just hammer. Like, this is what you're going to do in this situation. This is what you're going to do in this situation. And then the good old jump pass that no normal basketball coach wants to hear. We jump pass like the best of them. You even see it we do it in our pregame routine. And so getting that jump pass to get guys right in their shooting slot is so important. But Coach A is totally right. You got to have a good point guard.
So if you're just joining us live on YouTube, we got Coach Gunter. If you can give us a like, subscribe to the channel, comment. If you want to give a question out to Coach, we can maybe get a question to him out on the air. But Coach, are you the only team in your area? Is Davis still running it, or are you the lone?
Davis is running a hybrid. I think Coach Smith told me last year there was a local girls team that was running it. But I can't remember what school he was telling me, and I don't know if it was here or the Bay Area he was talking about. You've got St. Mary's of Stockton, which is a national powerhouse girls. If you watch them, yeah, they run Wahlberg, but what they were able to do with their footwork and their tempo pace and stuff is enjoyable to run. But yeah, I think we're one of the few up here. I don't know if anybody off the top of my head that's especially as crazy as I am to run it full blown.
Yeah. We do have a question, Coach, for you from the comments here is, do you teach your point guard to split the trap?
If they can, that's our number one option. And Coach Smith, I think, will absolutely agree. Obviously we're going to try to teach our guys to go at hips, to get around them. But man, when we can split traps and we drill it, the out front dribble. Man, we try to split traps whenever we can with those point guards. And then we go from there.
So talking to you, I've met Roger Holmes from Marina High School, who ran it in the mid 2000s. And then I think Coach Massey at Galesburg, I think those are the only real high school guys I can think of. I mean, there's more, but that were Grinnellish. Yeah. Why is it that everybody shies away from Grinnell, in your opinion?
Well, I told you why I went to it. Because I really wanted my guys that work so hard to play. That was number one. And then it came down to, I also saw the trend in the athletes coming up, because we're K through 12. So I can see the basketball players coming up. I mean, I see them, they start here in third grade. I see them, I'm like, we're going to be short, blah, blah, blah. And so I'm like, okay, when I look at this, what is best going to fit the talent that I have coming up? And for me, I could go full-blown Grinnell. I could either do a Grinnell with a preferred shooter or Grinnell where everybody had their green light.
Yeah.
I could go either or.
Which I would consider, when you say it that way, when I say Grinnell, I'm referring to their offensive pattern, Coach.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the 5-in, 5-out system.
No, and I'm
referring to offense. I should have clarified it to you.
No, and I actually, believe it or not, I got that, and I was referring to the offense based on the talent that I had come up. All of a sudden I saw I could teach screeners, and their job was O-reps. So the reality is, in a group of 5, I needed a point guard and a shooter. 2, I would be deadly. But if I could have a point guard and 1 shooter, and then if I had a second shooter, I'm set. Where all the others, I've got to have ball handlers and shooters, and I didn't have that. And so with the Grinnell overload, everything for me got simplified and didn't require as much talent on the floor. I could have more hustle guys, if that makes sense.
It does.
And that's why I went to the Grinnell overload.
Got it.
And for the record, with the Grinnell overload, if you're running a man, I don't care what level of team we're playing, we'll get our shot. It might come from 3/4 court, but we'll get a shot out. Versus any other system that I've seen with my talent level, we wouldn't even get up a shot. At least with the Grinnell overload, we're getting up some kind of shot where we have a chance to wedge in and get O-ribs.
So you teach missed shot break as well?
Yeah, missed shot break as well. Yeah.
On the offensive side of it, is that the hardest thing for you to teach the pecking order?
Yeah, it is. I mean, if you got a right-handed point guard, most of the time he's going to go up the right side. And so if your top guy's a lefty on the left side on a miss, that's going to be brutal. But teaching where the ball needs to go, we do have to spend some time on. And we do. We go over, I'm honest with my guys. We have preferred shooters. Even when years that I have a deep shooting squad, we have a priority 1, a priority 2, a priority 3, priority 4, and priority 5. And if you're a priority 5 guy, you got to be wide open. And if you're wide open, we want you to shoot it. But if you're not wide open, it needs to go up the chain to get it back to those top priority guys. And we do. We cover it, in a very positive way during practice. And if those guys get it to the right guy in a quick amount of time, we celebrate that more than we celebrate a made shot.
I have another typed in question for you. Have you ever struggled with your players wanting a different role? I think we all have.
Every year.
Every year.
You got to be a salesman. You absolutely have to be a salesman. my guys aren't as good as the local public schools around here. And so I have to sit down one-on-one and be honest with my guys. And if you've been coaching a long time, you can see it in their eyes when they're not buying in, and you got to be a salesman. And we have games where, because if you look at my record as a coach before the system, I was a way better coach as far as record, way better coach. But we weren't playing as tough as schools, number one, as we do now. And number two, I never got to a section finals as a regular coach. I always got to the semis and moved on. As a system coach, I got to the finals and got beat by 4 stud AAU freshmen that ended up transferring to some pretty big local schools as sophomores and did extremely well. And that's Capital Christian, Folsom High School, just to name 2 that those kids traveled to, and became big starters for those guys. So I was able to go farther with the system, but my record's not as good with the system, because it just, for me, I'm always having to find other ways. And running the system, I can find other ways. We can have an entire game where our whole celebration is about OREBs. Like, I don't care about scoreboard. We're playing a bigger public high school in a tournament that I'm going to get smoked by 15 points regardless. Yes, I'm running the system. I'm probably going to get beat by 40 tonight because of the style of play. Well, I understand as a coach, that's a 15-point loss in a normal system. Well, what we do as coaching staffs going in, we start putting value on other things that take our kids' mind off the scoreboard so they're hustling. So that's going to be a loss. You're outgunned, just like you would be anywhere else. And so it becomes about steals. We might put up, our normal goal is to steal 25. We might put up a goal of 30. Like, I don't care about anything else. You get to 30, we've won. We're celebrating. Ice cream at practice, whatever it is. We're blasting, because I'm the crazy coach that plays loud music at practice to get the heartbeat up and go. I mean, we are just a zoo, a chaos zoo that kids absolutely love. And so with the system, we're able to put other benchmarkers into games that get my guys going 100% for 32 minutes, even though they're losing by 30 points, because we're running it.
We didn't hit on your system goals. So you said 25 steals. What are you traditional? Traditional. How do you do it for high school? Do you 80 shots, or what?
Our goal is 85.
85.
Yeah, our goal is 85. And because in my good years, we've been 96, 97 shots a game.
So are you 50-50 on threes, or are you trying to get more threes than twos?
We're definitely 50-50, but don't be surprised if you come in here and you see 60 or 65% threes. Because if we dump down to our big, we don't want him to kick it out. Our toughest years, honestly, has been we shoot so many threes that my guys end up missing layups and 2-footers. And you'll see a stat chart and we're like 5 for 20 from 2 feet. And you're like, how did that happen? We hit 22 threes. Like, why are we shooting 55% from the line and, 10% from 2 feet or a post-up move when we shot whatever percentage, even though I don't worry about percentage from the 3-point line, but a great percentage that night. And I've had to learn over the years that my guys' minds speed up too quick with the free throws and the 2-foot shots, where, believe it or not, they actually slow down with the 3-point shots. And so, yeah, we're traditional. Everything you see in that book, that's us. Those are all our monikers, and just adapted a little bit for high school.
This is great, Coach. It's getting interactive. We got some questions. So, have you had more success with your 2 closest guys trapping, as you mentioned earlier, as opposed to running something like a more structured diamond press after a made basket?
We have personally here the first thing for me is the hustle and the effort from my guys. So if I went to a diamond press or anything else, and I almost treat those like gimmick presses now, to be honest with you. I know those are traditional presses, but because we do what we do so often, anything outside of that becomes a gimmick to us that we're trying to change stuff up.
But on a made shot, Coach, don't you have assigned positions?
We do have assigned positions, but once that ball comes in, it's 2 closest. So yeah, we have this guy goes to the right, this guy goes to left, or based on my talent, certain year we'll pick up the closest guy, but that takes a lot of smarts at my level. So for us, the chaos that is created, instead of running diamonds or anything else, it has been better as far as tempo with just 2 closest press, next lag, 2 gap. The tempo has been way better, where the other, it has seemed to slow the momentum of the game a little bit. And we see that when we run our safety press, because that would be a standard 2-2-1, but we're using, outside in body positioning to funnel them in. And it's like the game does slow down a little bit. So even with a diamond, for us, it's never came across to our guys the quick tempo of, nope, 2 closest, get it. Next guy gets a lag. It just, for some reason, having that mentality has made our guys just go faster, because they know if they do make a mistake, it's not patterned, because it's going to be the next 2 guys. It's not going to be you go here. It's going to be the next 2 guys. So for us, it's been the best way to, number one, get steals, easiest to explain, and create the most tempo on the defensive end for us.
When do you start decreasing your shots when you have a lead, Coach? Never?
Yeah, so that's a big question. Coach Smith and I have had this discussion quite a bit, especially in my early years running this. At what point do you back off and win the game? Mm-hmm. Really? If you had a standard game, you're probably talking the last 2 minutes. If you're running, if they're a big dominated team, you might be able to go to like the last 4 minutes, because they're going to dump down more, versus guards starting to jack it up and getting hot from the 3-point line or taking to the rack early. Honestly, it's a gut instinct down the stretch. It really is. And like I said, I've talked to Coach Smith a lot about this. We are through true and true. I have done this by trial and error, where I have pulled it off halfway through the third because we had a 30-point lead, only to have the team come back and be it a nail biter. And I shouldn't say 30-point. It was more 20-point, because usually when you're up by 30, you are making some kind of adjustments at the high school level, at least at my high school level, not to run anybody out of the gym. But with a 7, 8, 9-point lead, I'm probably running the system longer than most. And Coach Smith will probably tell you that as well. I'm going to run it as long as I have, because when I back off, my guys back off, and we haven't practiced much to back off. And so they get out of rhythm. They start making just dumb turnovers, and then they start looking at the shot clock versus a good shot. And that's where we found a lot of turnovers. So it's a gut instinct. When it's time to win the ball game, at whatever point in that fourth quarter is when we will slow things up, go to a 4 corners. We have one set motion offense that we will use late in those situations. But really it comes down to your gut instinct as a basketball coach. At what point would you do it in a normal system? If you do it in a normal system, you're going to do it with the system. Outside of that, we're risking it up by 12 with 2 minutes left.
When do you usually go to AB?
A lot of times fourth quarter.
So how many guys you have sitting on your bench, assistants?
This year I had 2. Some years I've only had 1. I've had to run games where there's none.
So how do you, stat wise? I mean, because it's so stat oriented, and some of us have big staffs, some of us have small staffs. Obviously, somebody has to do the shift chart.
Yeah, so we have had games in our gym. If you see that picture you posted of me, you'll see how close our chairs are. There's no bleachers behind us. We have done home games where I have literally put up with tape the shift chart on the bench, and your job when you come off the floor is look at the next rotation. And so what we do is, it's like the point guard usually sits right next to me. So it's me, it's my point guard, the next 4. Then if I have assistants, which normally I do, it's what we call the shot caller. That's the shift guy. Shot caller sits next. And then we have the coaching coach. Hey, look at what they're doing. This is where they're trying to push you. That he's actually at the end of the bench, and he's only coaching the guys that are out for 1 or 2 rotations. So they're not so encumbered with knowledge, because we really want our guys just to go. But if he sees something like, hey, the fade's open every time, but you're going with your head down, get up in the air and hit that fade, he's going to be there. Those are the things that he's going to tell. But literally, I have had some games where it's just me. I have put a clipboard in a bigger gym. I put a clipboard in that 7th seat, and you will see my guys coming out like artwork, checking the clipboard, adjusting themselves next to me with a point guard right next to me, and then the next guy sort of fill in, and they're high-fiving. So I'm really crazy. I'm able to do this even if I don't have any assistants. So, where I really need assistance is when it comes to practices. That's where I need assistance.
So are you just getting the game goals and your stuff on game film after the games, or is there a lower level kid or a manager doing stats, or how are you doing that?
Usually there is. And I'll be honest with you, there are some games where I don't have stats at all. Some games that we do not have film, some games that I don't have enough people to do it. And I've been a coach for 19 years. I've been doing this now in the system for 10. You can tell if you're out shooting the other team. You can, especially at my level. You can tell if you're getting close to 33% of your misses. I mean, because you can get to halftime and go, raise your hand, how many rebounds? And my guys will tell you, because, those are individuals that,
they know their stats.
Yeah, it's actually, and it's not an ego thing for them, but we really put the onus on them to go after those other ones. So my guys might not be able to tell you how many points they get. I mean, I'm sure they know it because kids know it, but my guys will go to the locker room and said, hey, I've got 2 fouls because I was dumb for reaching and slowed it, or I've got 8 offensive rebounds, or
I know the one stat that they'll never tell you that they have is how many times they've turned it over.
Oh, to believe it or not, my guys, because we've discussed it, we have found we have less turnovers. Another key point, running the system than I have ever had before. And so my guys will usually know turnovers, because if we're starting to cough it up at the top, I'm yelling at my guys to shoot from half court, because now we've got lanes all the way to the basket. And so we're either taking those lanes or we're wedging. That's where we're going to get 2 points. So I'm the crazy coach that it's like, why do you have a turnover? You have my permission to shoot from 3/4 court, and we've drilled on how to get to the offensive glass. Turnover is not as much.
It's in the book. One of my favorite little quotes in the book. I don't remember where it is in the book, but it says, I'd rather get the ball across midcourt and kick it off the backboard so that we could at least get an offensive rebound and turn the dang thing over.
I'm a purist, and that's it. I get so many looks from my dad. Sits on the baseline with his group of buddies. They're all old college basketball players, and my dad's our lead pastor and our administrator. So he's the guy that cuts the checks. And so they love me. They know what I'm doing, but man, they cannot stand like a guy pulling up from half court or us giving up a layup and being happy because we just knocked down a 3 in 2 seconds and we're up 3-2. They don't understand that concept. So that book's right. The only time I want to have a turnover is when we are stuck in a shift and they're close to a guy that's in foul trouble early in the game or whatever it is. We have had a couple of years where we flat out throw the ball out of bounds just to get a new shift in. Yeah, and I talked to Coach Smith about this at length, and obviously it's early in the season, not later when you get to the league. But if you got a shift that's out there, and we have a key phrase, it's called I yell giddy up. So if I go giddy up, they're trying to get fouled and go to the line so we can get the next group in. But there are some times that your shift just gets stuck, which compiles that as you go on, and it hinders you the rest of the game. I have had my point guards come in. Our first goal is to throw it off the guy's leg. That's our number one. But if we can't, I've had guys come down and pass the ball to me out of bounds, and you ought to see the gym reaction or the officials and the other team go, what in the world just happened? And I'm like, I will tell you, it's going to save me in the fourth quarter. And then when you turn around and you hit those hot spurts in the third quarter where you go on like a 20-4 run in a minute and a half, now you understand why we threw the ball out of bounds to get a shift change.
We got a question here for you. If you can remember any of this, what is the lowest 3-point shooting percentage you have had in a season, but still had success in regards to putting up the points and winning in your system?
Gosh, I will be honest with you. I'm a terrible stats guy. Even though the system is stats, I'm a terrible stats guy. If you ask me about baseball stats, I'll be able to tell you. But when it comes to basketball, I don't know. I would assume, if I had to go, probably 15%. Because there's a lot of times we are just jacking threes and we are terrible. But what you don't understand is we've gotten 40% of our O-Rebs, and we have scored 60 points that night from 2 feet because we took so many threes. Everybody gets enamored with all the threes that we take, when the reality is, for us, it's all the O-Rebs we get. That's how the scoreboard keeps turning. So yeah, if we get hot from the 3-point line, that can change a ball game. But the one thing people don't understand, or don't seem to understand, it's just the threes are creating space on that floor to get to the offensive glass. And it's amazing what you can do when 8 feet get to the paint in proper wedges or shooting gaps in zones. And so that's one of the reasons I don't care about our 3-point percentage. I want to make sure at least 50% of our shots are from the 3-point line, so we can get to the O-Rebs.
Before I get to some CIF questions to end it, what advice would you give to coaches that would want to run the system?
First, don't do it. Don't do it. That would be number one. You have to have a real thick skin. And my wife would be the first to tell you that. The way we're set up here at VCA, no parent will ever come come to me and complain, because they know how much I do for the kids off and on the court. So they'll never complain to me. But not only do you have to have a thick skin, but your spouse or your partner in the stands needs to as well, because you are absolutely going to be hammered. You as a basketball coach will know when another team's just better. And so you could play standard basketball and lose by 6 to 8, but you're still going to lose. And playing the system, you might lose by 50. How are you going to handle that? How's your admin going to handle that? How's your fans going to handle that? So with those things, you have to have a thick skin. You have to be a little crazy. You have to want to do it.
So CIF, I mean, you're in the planning phases. You coach 2 sports.
Yeah.
CIF, I think it was a couple weeks ago now, maybe even 3 weeks now, came out with our calendar.
Yeah, July 20th.
And they moved basketball to March 12th would be the start date. And so it moved it to spring. They moved some spring sports to fall, not very many of them, and then pretty much they went to 2 sports seasons.
Yeah.
They got rid of fall, and now it's winter and spring. And some of the things I have to commend them for putting this all together, because I think we're one of the only associations that's out there that's still allowing us to play the maximum number of games that we can play. I don't think everywhere else I'm hearing their schedules are getting cut. There's no playoffs in different scenarios. Some of the things that are controversial, if you will, are a baseball player wants to play basketball. It's going to be tough because it's same season of sport. And then travel ball is going to be at the same time, which they're allowed to do as well, which has never been the case.
Yeah.
So how are you going to handle it? How are you adjusting? You coach both sports. So how are you going to do it?
Yeah, it's going to be a nightmare here. Well, I can tell you behind the scenes that the reason they went to 2 seasons of sport. Let me tell you my section, because state put out theirs and then sections followed with their calendars.
Correct.
Biggest thing, obviously, that the admins wanted was 10 or 5 home football games. Let's not beat around the bushes. Football, because that's a moneymaker for your schools. They got the precedence. And then everything came after that. But in that, even though football was the big one, it's also, if things get pushed and we cannot play in January and maybe even February, then you're eliminating some fall sports that haven't been touched, even if that's football. As a baseball coach, I played 1 baseball game this year. Our golf team had 1 golf game. Our girls softball team, which this year I had to coach softball as well last minute, so they were practicing with our baseball team. We got 0 softball games. CIF did not want spring to be affected at all. If somebody's going to lose an entire sport, to be honest with you, your number one priority is to take care of football. But if somebody's going to lose sports, it's got to be those ones that weren't affected. So let's put them at the front with the priorities of letting them have a full season. And then if we have to cut back, it's cutting back into their schedule. Then you move on to basketball. All right, we're going inside. Well, we need to go farther in the year to go to inside. I know you got volleyball, but now you're more contact and all that kind of stuff. And so our state did a decent job, but it's going to be extremely difficult. I do not like the off-campus, AAU or travel playing as an AD. That drives me nuts. But I understand. I think coaches have to be more creative this year and less stubborn than we've ever been before. Baseball's our biggest one. I've been here 24 years. I've sent out almost 50 guys the next level, and we've had 3 guys drafted, 1 guy in the pros. So baseball's my big sport.
You just had a guy. Here's an ironic story, Coach.
Yeah.
I saw your Twitter. You're going to appreciate this one. This is small world right here. One of your players got called up because Jake Marisnik got hurt, right?
Yep.
My vice principal of athletics is Ray Marisnik, his dad.
No way.
No
Don't
joke.
tell him sorry, but I was rooting for my guy.
No joke. He's my vice principal of athletics, his son. We always joke that
you can tell him.
We always have Houston Astros banter. Just put it.
Yes. Well, I'm really a Yankees fan, so I have Houston Astros banter as well. My guy just got DFA'd, so I'm waiting the 48 hours to see.
Because Jake he was hurt for that, so he didn't even really get to play in the World Series for that. So
yes,
but he was
he's a good ball player. He's a real good ball player. But I'll tell you, you're gonna have to be creative. Because baseball's our biggest sport. I've flat out told my baseball guys, we're probably going to shorten our schedules. We're not going to do full schedules. I'll probably schedule, realistically, probably 20 on the baseball side and probably anywhere from 18 to 20 on the basketball side. And I'm going to eliminate a lot of tournaments on the basketball side. I'm going to go more individual games. That's why you'll see less. And so I'm going to let my guys in this weird year, I'm going to let my guys play whatever sport they want, and I'm going to cater to it. And I don't know if all coaches are going to do it, but that's what I'm going to do.
Is that is the calendar going to adjust for 2021, 22, or is it just going to roll out as normal, like August football?
Normal. As of right now, it's normal. The only thing that's been released right now is 2021. We're all praying that we get to 21, 22. This becomes normal. It really does.
Your opinion with our schedule of sport and where we are as a state, do we not see kids on campuses? Maybe you guys are doing it. We're not. We're distant learning.
Yeah.
Are you thinking not till 2021?
Yeah. I really
Second semester.
Public school wise. Your private schools, as soon as they come off the watch list, a lot of them are going to open up as soon as they can. But I would say, just erring on the side of caution. To be honest with you, where it's safety of kids, no doubt, safety of staff, no doubt. But you're also worried about lawsuits of what happens if somebody unfortunately passes away. I mean, it's a whole dynamic we've never had to deal with. I don't see public schools coming back on campuses until 2021, and it might happen after the flu and cold season. And then on the sports side, I've discussed this as league president. I've discussed it as a board of managers member for our section, discussed it with our section commissioners and assistant commissioners, and state guys are, buddies of mine. And we've had long discussions, really, what are we going to do when it comes to January, February, when we get to cold and flu season? Normally, when a kid goes down and we can't get a test right away. And I know we're testing a lot more, blah, 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 but you can't get a test right away. A kid goes down. It's a whole team.
Not in the bubble.
If you're not in a bubble, do you sit them down for 14 days? I was interviewed by a couple newspapers here locally, and it's like you quarantine your entire team for 2 weeks for the cold. We're usually praising guys and girls that play sick, and now we're having to quarantine them because we don't know if it's COVID or not. We don't know if it's a cold or COVID.
We have to look at the Jordan flu game a little differently now.
Oh, wait, Jordan would be done, and whoever was around him would be sequestered as well for 14 days. It's a nightmare, and I pray for a little normalcy soon, but there's still a whole lot of unknowns. We still don't see professional football up, basketball.
I made the joke about CIF. They had a plan before the 4-letter word NCAA. So
yeah.
I mean, we can knock our organizations. We disagree with it sometimes with the decisions that they make, but I think that they did a really good job as far as making sure that everybody has a complete schedule.
100%. And I'll tell you another end is, and they don't get enough credit, they also waited as long as they possibly could. They did that in the spring. I know that firsthand. They waited as long as they could to shut things down. And I'm talking about our state CIF, our local CIF. They waited. The July 20th declaration, they waited as long as they can. And before then, we're status quo, we're status quo, we're status quo. If you can do things in your county, we're going to adjust for you. They had plans in place, but they waited praying that things would change and they could be normal. And when they saw that it wasn't going to change, it got to a point where they had to put the schedule out, and that's when you saw the July 20th. I applaud those guys.
Our school started distant learning today.
We're day after Labor Day.
Wow.
So we're traditional schedule. So we usually have a couple football games and a couple volleyball games before, we get to feel like a college here early in the year.
So a couple things with that. How does a school, if they're doing distant learning still, and football season starts January 7th or whatever the date was?
Yeah.
How are people going to react that football players are allowed to be on a campus and play, but students are not going to be allowed to come?
Well, see, and that's where it goes into it. I don't see football starting unless kids are back on campus. That's the reality.
Now, I'm being told, I mean, in California, we don't have association rules, so we can practice year round, except for our little dead periods that they give us. But we're being told for all intents and purposes that we're not going to be allowed to work out with our team until physical school comes back.
Yeah. And we're hearing that. And really that's where the inequity is going to come. And that's been discussed up here a lot, is you're going to have certain districts that say it's a go. Even if you're not on campus, they might say it's a go. And then you're going to have others that are not. It's the weirdest. It's been a long 6 months for us all. And even though I don't agree with every decision that's been made out there, I don't envy those people, because a lot of times I'm on the backside of that as one of the people that are asked, what can we do? It's brutal.
Are you watching any of the bubble?
I am. To be honest with you, I'm watching more of MLB right now. And the reason why, I'm a big college basketball fan,
Me too.
For obvious reasons, not an NBA guy. I can only handle so many pick and rolls, especially as a system coach, or isolation plays. We have an isolation play, clear out the right side and let our point guard go. So within college, I can see like quick hitter stuff, set, team dynamic. The NBA doesn't help me. Those guys are just that good.
Who's going to win it?
I got to say the Sacramento Kings because I'm in Sacramento. That's what I'm supposed to say. But I really don't care. What's that?
As Shaq would say, the Queens?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I'm a college basketball guy, not a pro guy. If I had to say I watch the Kings.
Team?
Whoever's going up and down the floor. To be honest with you, if there's a game on, I'm watching it. As I said before, I was a huge UNLV fan growing up. I was a huge Rick Pitino fan, but now so many more colleges are running up and down the floor.
Yep.
Well,
you grew up in the same era as I did. The Loyola Marymount, UNLV, Billy Tubbs, Oklahoma.
Yep. Gotta go.
Arkansas.
Yep. So if they got a quick tempo, I'm watching it. If I watch a slow down game, it's just because I'm looking for, an end of the quarter or coming out of a timeout play. That's it.
Well, you can watch. Best guy probably in the NBA to watch that is Brad Stevens for the Celtics.
100%. I'd agree. I like the Celtics, but I got to be real careful there because I'm a huge Yankees fan, and we're not supposed to like anything out of Boston. So I got to be, I gotta be real careful in saying that. No, but I do. I don't watch as much NBA. I do, even though the Kings are not very good. I like that they're trying to go up tempo. That's just because I'm a nuts coach to begin with.
Oh, and wasn't David Arsenal Jr. part of the G League for the Kings?
Yes, they were. Yes, he was.
Reno Bighorns, baby.
Yes, Reno Bighorns. And how many of his YouTube games of the Bighorns I watched? I watched a lot. I watched an absolute ton.
Well, Coach, I want to thank you for coming on tonight. Had a lot of interactive questions with you. Hope you had a good time.
Thank you.
And want to wish you guys lots of health up there. Stay safe and good luck. And just pray that we have a season.
Outstanding. Hey, thanks for doing all this. All of us coaches really appreciate it.
All right, man. Take care. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, man.